Welcome guys, this is the first video of Lead Green Associate Exam Prep series. The video is going to be the basic overview of first chapter which is Green Building Basics. I insist all to go through the video, understand all the key concepts and then read the chapter from the study guide. That way you won't feel exhausted while reading as you won't be feeling like you are reading for the first time. Okay, so let's start the overview. So let's begin our chapter here guys. Now there are 12 different terminologies or the concepts to which we are going to be introduced in this topic. But guys, first I want you to grab a pen and paper. Don't just listen to this video, guys. Write some notes. See, this is not any lecture. I have covered only important points here. And while understanding those, I don't want you to yawn or get dizzy. So pause the video and grab a pen and paper and keep noting wherever you feel is important. Or I insist you should at least note the headings every time we jump to a new concept. That way, your mind will automatically keep tracking how we are proceeding through the chapter. You will then understand the key terms and also not feel sleepy. So ready guys? Grab a pen and paper. Okay, let's start with the first chapter. So this chapter begins with a sustainability definition. It says sustainability is defined as ability to meet the needs of present without compromising the ability of future to meet their own needs. A pretty self-explanatory simple definition, isn't it guys? So once you know what sustainability is, chapter also defines the concept of high performance buildings. High performance buildings are those buildings that has used minimum resources, has reduced life cycle cost, has maximum positive impact on health and productivity of occupants, and improved environmental performance. Now, why is there a need of such high performance building? For this, there are some stats which show what is impact of commercial construction in general. See these stats which are of US. Here, the commercial construction consumes almost 72% of total electricity, 39% of total energy use. Also shown is how much is CO2 emissions, how much raw materials are used, how much waste is generated, etc. etc. So in short, building industry is impacting hugely on environment. And so high performance, that is green buildings, are perfect solution for this. Also, to understand what environment aspect here we are talking about, there is a term coined as built environment. The built environment is the human-made surrounding that provides a setting for human activity, which involves not only personal shelter and buildings, but also its neighborhoods and cities. Meaning, it includes not only buildings, but also associated infrastructure like transportation systems, road, bridges, etc. So while doing a sustainable design, positive impact should not only be on buildings, but also in its built environment. And after defining the built environment, then on that basis, the green buildings are defined. So the green building is defined as specifically designed structures that will reduce the overall negative impact of built environment on human health and natural environment. And how this impact is reduced? So the impact is reduced by following things. So first one is using energy, water, land and materials efficiently. Okay. Next is protecting occupant health and improving employee productivity. The third is reducing waste and pollution from each building. And fourth is continuously looking for ways to improve the performance. And to achieve all these benefits, a whole building design approach is used. Okay. So this whole building approach is like considering whole house as a single system approach. See this figure. Okay. These are all basic systems you can say which are involved in buildings of house. Now conventionally, each of these are handled by different streams of people. Means to give you an example, conventionally what would happen? Architect would decide this building envelope, correct? And he will decide what type of insulation is to be used based on the city code. And then HVAC guy will then just consider what type of insulation has architect used in the wall and calculate the building cooling loads based on that. But in whole building approach, the architect and the HVAC guy will have to first sit together, and the HVAC guy will recommend what type of insulation will prove more beneficial in the long term, considering the whole life cycle of the building. And then architect will then final decide what type of insulation is to be used. That means we have to consider all the things together. Means rather than going from conventional way of designing, we will go this type of all system together, whole building approach. And for getting this approach, we need an integrated project team and an integrative process that needs to be followed. Okay. So what type of integrated process are we talking here? For this, first, see what are the things usually followed in conventional process of building new building. So in conventional process, first we begin with the design of the project. After design, construction plans are done. After that, bidding process is carried out and then actual construction takes place. Followed is commissioning, and after that, building is allotted to occupants. Right? Now in these, you must have noticed the teams are separate. They work in isolation, each one focusing on their separate expertise. And they will work together only when it is needed for coordination purpose, etc. Now, we will see the integrated process. Here, first an integrated project team is formed, and all the team members work together and communicate with each other, right? From first design stage till the construction stage. And the team members comprises not only of designers and contractors, but also owners and even end users as well. So the process here doesn't start with design, but it starts with pre-design. In fact, pre-design is the most critical phase in this process. The level of efforts in planning is more in this pre-design phase of integrative process. So let's see what this pre-design phase is exactly and what work do we do exactly in this phase. Okay. So the pre-design phase includes several steps. The first step is getting a life cycle approach to all team members. In this approach, focus is not just on the delivery of the completed project, but all the team should focus on complete life of the project and eventually reuse and recycle or demolition of the project, not just designing once, constructing and delivering it. Okay. Next is developing a clear statement of project vision. This is decided by entire team. To give you an example of project vision, consider a project is of building a new office for a municipal building. Okay. So the vision can be building a new, attractive, functional, comfortable building, which is state-of-art, energy efficient, and cost-effective structure. And based on this vision, the green goals of buildings are then decided. Okay. So there are guidelines given for deciding these green goals. Also, the targets and metrics are to be used, and these are decided here. Example, the green goal cannot be just like building should be energy saving. The target should be like it will do at least 25% energy saving than compared to other similar structures. Also, what metrics are to be used in the project are finalized here. That is how the energy will be measured, etc. etc. Okay. So the next step is setting priorities. See, not all the goals can be possible to be achieved within budget. So for the goals, some priorities are set. Next is deciding the project team. As told, a collaborative group is formed which comprises of not only designers and contractors, but also owners and even end users as well. So green building experts are also considered here, and group leaders are assigned here, who would be responsible for leading team in sustainability direction in each phase of the construction. Okay. Next step is researching green technologies. So research is done on latest green technologies available, and out of them, what can be most appropriate depending on a goal of project are considered. And for this purpose, small groups are done and tasks are assigned to them. And then the green building budget is defined. In this budget, not only design fees and construction cost is considered, but also life cycle analysis cost, green building expert fees, and any research contingency cost, etc. Everything is considered. And lastly, applicable laws and standards are reviewed. See, local codes, zoning, ordinances, all these always take precedences over the lead requirements. So, all the applicable laws are reviewed. Some jurisdictions follow international codes developed by ICC, which is the International Code Council. And that committee, ICC, has now also introduced IGCC, that is International Green Construction Code. And other laws are also. So, whatever all the applicable laws are reviewed. Okay. And with this, pre-design phase of the project is completed. It's a bit lengthy and effort-taking phase. Okay. So after the pre-design phase follows the design phase. So in the design phase, project budget is finalized, which would be inclusive of green building measures. Then the green technologies are finalized out of the options which were considered during the pre-design phase. Then all the costs are checked, and at the end, the design is finalized. Now, the rest of the phases, that is construction plans, bidding processes, construction, commissioning, and occupancy, are all similar to the traditional way only. The only difference is in all of these phases, the project team will be always be reviewing and verifying if the green building goals are being met or not. Okay. The next section of chapter deals with the cost associated with buildings. Now, in traditional method, only hard and soft costs were considered. Soft costs are costs not directly related to the building construction. Example, architecture, legal, engineering fees, and other costs incurred before and after construction. Whereas hard costs deal with the direct construction costs, that is fixed assets. But in green building, along with the above two, LCC, that is life cycle cost, is also considered. That is operating and maintenance cost of the building over its entire lifetime and not just initial construction. That means LCC is basically sum of all recurring and one-time cost incurred over the entire lifespan of the building and systems in it. Also, please note, the life cycle cost is different than life cycle analysis. The life cycle analysis is nothing but analysis of environmental impacts caused by a particular product. So please remember this difference, guys. This difference is a bit important. Okay. So after this, the chapter again then revolves a bit around concept of integrative process and integrated project team. How the clear communication with each of these team members from beginning itself is crucial, and also how all of the team members are accountable for project success. Okay. See, this is the diagram showing who all are considered in an integrated project team. Now, the responsibility of setting a goal of the project is entirely on the owners. Okay. But translating that goal into achievable, measurable benchmarks and within the budget is responsibility of all of these project members. And then only the project will be successful. Okay. So after this, chapter reveals how green buildings are different in terms of ongoing operation and maintenance. See, ongoing maintenance is being done in traditional way of building design also. I mean, contractors are scheduled to come in periodically and to check the building systems, so that preventive maintenance is being done. That means before failing of any system, we can prevent it. But in green building, not only above things are being done, but also steps like auditing, performance measuring, analysis, and optimization is also done. This cycle is kept continuing. so as to know if the systems are performing as expected and if they can optimize. This not only prevents failing but also keeps system optimized. Now, next is the concept of triple bottom line. So there is already a concept of bottom line in traditional businesses, but it is usually used as a financial bottom line, which is an indicator of how much money the project or investment will make. Depending on this figure, all the big project decisions are taken, like can we hire new people, can we purchase new equipment, if they purchased, how much of profit will they make, etc., etc. But in green buildings, however, there is a concept of triple bottom line. That means in these, not only economic impacts are considered, but along with that, the environmental and social impacts are also accounted for. So the environmental impacts, that is the benefiting the planet as maximum as possible, and social impacts, that is improving the lives of people interacting with the building, are also accounted for. And instead of targeting only financial bottom line, here the triple bottom line is used for decision making. Now, there are also different ways in which this triple bottom line is referred, like 3Ps or 3Es, etc. So the 3Ps means profit, planet, people. 3Es mean economics, ecology, and social equity. So all these are basically acronyms used alternatively for this concept of triple bottom line. And the last point of this chapter deals with system thinking. See, the project team has to view all the parts or different systems of the project in relation to other systems. That is how this system affect other systems. So that if you're solving the problem of any system, it should not cause problem to the other system. To understand it a bit more, first, the open system and closed system are defined. The closed systems are the one where the byproduct of one system should be used as input to other system. While open systems are the one which constantly takes in from outside and release the waste. Example, in home, so groceries, water, different products are bought and waste of all is thrown out. Okay, so this forms an open system. If only all the waste is probably treated or recycled, then the two subsystems are coming together and forming a closed system, which is more sustainable. Okay, so that was the types of the system. And also, chapter mentions some point related to how system should work. So for effective working of the system, leverage points are to be identified. So leverage points are those points where minimal effort makes maximum impact. Example, if there is an elevator system and near it, if a board is pasted that taking stairs is good for heart, then people will tend to take stairs more. So that board here is serving as a leverage point, which is resulting in good social impact. So such leverage points are to be identified. And also, the positive and negative feedback loops are to be used to make the system more beneficial. Example, thermostat. So if there is a sufficient cooling done within the room, the thermostat, which is connected to the AC system, will provide a negative feedback to the AC that not to continue cooling more, and the AC system will then shut down. So such things are to be implemented in all the systems and subsystems to make the whole project as a one system more sustainable. Okay, so this was system thinking. And so this was the brief overview of different concepts of chapter 1, which is green building basics. I hope it has helped to get acquainted with all the terminologies used in the chapter. Please also read the chapter, as the concepts are more elaboratively explained there with lots and lots of more examples. So you will understand them perfectly then. Okay? Feel free to comment and like the video. Thank you and all the best for your Green Associate exam preparation. Take care and stay safe, guys.